The rain fell soft and steady against the stone pathway outside Boston Memorial Hospital. Valentina Blackwell knelt beside her daughter's wheelchair, her tailored navy suit darkening at the knees as water seeped through the fabric. Sophia's chair had caught between two uneven paving stones, the front wheels wedged at an impossible angle. Valentina pushed, her hands slipping on the wet metal, but the chair wouldn't budge. Inside her chest, something tightened, the same helpless sensation she'd felt 2 hours ago when the surgeon had said the words that shattered everything. The spinal cord damage is too severe. Your daughter will never walk again. A shadow fell across them. Valentina looked up through the rain to see a man standing there, worn leather jacket darkened by moisture, his hand holding tight to a small girl with bright eyes. His voice was calm and certain. "Let me help her." Valentina had no idea this moment would change all three of their lives forever. 3 years ago, Valentina Blackwell had been a rising star on Wall Street, a financial analyst with a corner office and a reputation for turning failing portfolios into gold. She'd built that life away from her father's shadow, away from the weight of being Dr. Lawrence Blackwell's daughter. Lawrence Blackwell. The name alone commanded respect in neuroscience circles. A genius who'd pioneered revolutionary approaches to spinal cord regeneration, published in every major journal, consulted by governments and corporations alike. But Valentina had never wanted that world. She'd wanted numbers, clean equations, problems with definite solutions. Then came the laboratory accident that took her father's life, an explosion in his private research facility, cause undetermined. And suddenly Valentina was thrust into a boardroom full of shareholders and scientists, all looking to her to carry forward a legacy she'd never understood. The board had been clear. Lawrence had left controlling shares to his daughter alone. If Blackwell Medical Innovations was going to survive, it needed a Blackwell at the helm. So she'd stepped into her father's office, surrounded by equipment she couldn't operate and research she couldn't comprehend, trying desperately to be worthy of a genius's legacy. Then came Sophia. Her miracle. Her entire world. Valentina's husband had died when Sophia was 3, a sudden heart attack that left no time for goodbyes, and from that moment forward, every decision Valentina made was for her daughter. Every late night at the office, every difficult negotiation, every compromise with board members who questioned her authority, all of it was to build something stable for Sophia's future. 2 months ago, that future had shattered on a rain-slicked highway when a delivery truck ran a red light. Valentina had walked away with a concussion and broken ribs. Sophia had woken up unable to feel anything below her waist. In the weeks that followed, Valentina had called in every favor, contacted every expert, flown specialists in from Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, Tokyo, Berlin, Singapore. The answer was always the same. The damage was too extensive. Modern medicine could do nothing. At night, Valentina would sit beside Sophia's hospital bed and pull out her father's old research journals, reading pages of notation she couldn't decipher, searching desperately for something that might tell her what Lawrence Blackwell would have done. But her father was gone. And with him, any hope of a miracle. 3,000 miles away in Portland, Oregon, Dr. Griffin Hayes poured coffee into a chipped mug and watched his daughter eat cereal at their small kitchen table. Lily was humming, her legs swinging beneath her chair, arranging her Cheerios into a smiley face. Griffin smiled despite himself. This simple morning was more than he'd dared hope for 3 years ago. He'd been the golden boy once, the youngest neurosurgeon to head a department at Massachusetts General Hospital, Lawrence Blackwell's protege. The brilliant student who'd helped push the boundaries of spinal regeneration research. He'd had everything: a career, a reputation, a beautiful wife, and a baby daughter. Then Emily got sick. Stage 4. Ovarian cancer, aggressive and merciless. The oncologists had given her 6 months, maybe less. But Griffin had been working on something with Lawrence, an experimental protocol using targeted neural stimulation combined with stem cell therapy. It was unproven, untested in humans, but the early animal trials had been promising. Emily had looked at him with those clear green eyes and said, "Let's try it. I want to be here for Lily." The hospital ethics board had approved it as compassionate use. Lawrence had vouched for the research personally. For 4 months, it had seemed to work. Emily's tumors had shrunk. Her pain had lessened. Then, suddenly, catastrophically, her body had rejected everything at once. She died in intensive care with Griffin holding her hand. By the next morning, the hospital had launched an investigation. The media got hold of the story within days. Rogue doctor experiments on dying wife. Unproven treatment. Kills young mother. Never mind that Emily had signed every consent form. Never mind that Lawrence Blackwell had testified the research was sound. That Emily's death was a result of her underlying disease, not the treatment. The court of public opinion had already rendered its verdict. Griffin Hayes had killed his wife playing God. He'd resigned before they could fire him. He'd packed up Lily and left Boston in the middle of the night, driving west until the Atlantic was far behind them. Now he worked at a small physical therapy clinic, helping stroke patients regain mobility, teaching elderly clients how to prevent falls. Humble work, quiet work, safe work, until yesterday, when he'd opened the newspaper and seen the headline, Blackwell CEO's daughter paralyzed in tragic accident. Below it, a photo of Valentina Blackwell, standing beside a hospital bed, where a small girl lay motionless. Sophia Blackwell, Lawrence's granddaughter. Griffin had stared at that photo for a long time. Then he'd gone to storage and pulled out a leather-bound notebook. On the first page, in Lawrence's handwriting, "To Griffin, finish what we started. The answer is in here somewhere. You just have to be brave enough to look." That night, Griffin had booked 2 tickets to Boston. The pediatric wing of Boston Memorial smelled like antiseptic and artificial lavender. Griffin held Lily's hand as they walked down the corridor toward room 314. He'd called ahead, left a message with Valentina's assistant, but received no response. He wasn't surprised. He was, after all, the disgraced doctor who'd experimented on his own dying wife. The door was half open. Griffin knocked gently. "Mrs. Blackwell?" Valentina looked up from the chair beside Sophia's bed, still dressed in business attire despite the late hour. Her eyes were rimmed with exhaustion. "Yes? Who are you?" "My name is Griffin Hayes. I was a research partner of your father's." He saw recognition flicker across her face, followed immediately by guardedness. "I'm not looking for employees or consultants, Dr. Hayes. If you want to apply for a position at Blackwell Medical, you can go through HR. I'm not here about a job. I'm here about Sophia." Valentina stood up, positioning herself between Griffin and her daughter's bed. "How do you even know about—" "It was in the newspaper, and I recognized her name. Your father used to talk about her all the time. That was true. Lawrence had carried photos of his granddaughter in his wallet. My dad's research can't help her," Valentina said flatly. "Every specialist I've consulted has reviewed his work. They all say spinal regeneration protocols are still years away from human trials, unless someone's already been working on it." Griffin pulled out the leather notebook. "Your father gave me this the week before he died. It's the Blackwell 7 protocol, the complete formula." Valentina's eyes widened. "If that research was real, it would be in the company archives. Your father kept certain things off the record. He wanted to be absolutely certain before going public." Griffin held out the notebook. "I know you have no reason to trust me. I know what the papers said. But your father trusted me. And if there's even a chance this could help Sophia, don't you think we should try?" Valentina stared at the notebook but didn't reach for it. Behind her, Sophia lay silent in the hospital bed, sedated into numbness. Then Lily let go of Griffin's hand and walked straight past Valentina to the bedside. She pulled a small stuffed bear from her backpack, ratty and well-loved, with button eyes and a tiny felt stethoscope. "Hi," Lily said brightly. "I'm Dr. Lily. This is Dr. Waffles. Can we check your bunny?" She pointed to the stuffed rabbit tucked beside Sophia's arm. For the first time in weeks, Sophia's eyes opened fully. She looked at Lily, at the ridiculous bear with its toy stethoscope, and something shifted in her face. "His name is Hopper," Sophia whispered. It was the first thing she'd said in days. Valentina's hand flew to her mouth. Lily climbed carefully onto the edge of the bed. making Dr. Waffles examine Hopper with exaggerated seriousness. "Does Hopper have any ouchies?" "His ear hurts," Sophia said. Griffin stayed very still. Valentina turned to look at him, a question in her eyes she was afraid to ask. "One session," she said finally. "Tomorrow, under my supervision. If I see anything that worries me, we stop immediately." Griffin nodded. "That's all I'm asking for." Griffin arrived the next morning with equipment cases and a backpack full of games and art supplies. Lily wore a white coat comically too big for her, borrowed from the clinic. Valentina watched from the doorway as Griffin set up what looked like a combination of medical equipment and children's toys. A device resembling a video game controller, connected to electrode pads, puzzle pieces and building blocks, and a small trampoline. "What is all this?" Valentina asked. "Neural pathway stimulation therapy," Griffin explained, attaching electrode sensors to Sophia's spine and legs. "The brain can't tell the difference between treatment and play. It only knows connection or disconnection. So we make connection fun." He nodded to Lily, who immediately launched into her role. "Okay, Patient Sophia. Today we're playing Operation Emergency Rescue. Doctor, Waffles needs our help to save all the stuffed animals in the toy hospital, but we can only do it if we work together." Sophia looked intrigued. "How do we play?" "You hold this light," Lily said, placing a small flashlight in Sophia's hand. "And you have to keep it pointing at the rescue target while I do the rescue. Can you keep your arms super still?" Sophia nodded. Griffin activated the neural stimulation device. It sent gentle electrical pulses through the sensors, not enough to cause pain, but enough to wake up dormant pathways, to remind nerves they could still communicate. While Lily played, chattering about Dr. Waffles' heroic medical career, Griffin adjusted settings, watching readouts that tracked muscle response and neural activity. Valentina stood in the corner, arms crossed, watching everything. At first, she was looking for signs of danger, but as the hour wore on, she found herself watching something else entirely. She was watching her daughter smile, laugh even. Sophia's hand was steady on the flashlight. Her eyes were bright and focused. She looked, for the first time in 2 months, like herself. "Good job, everyone," Lily announced finally. "All the animals are rescued." Griffin powered down the equipment and removed the sensors. "How do you feel, Sophia?" "Tired. But good tired. Like after swimming." "That's perfect." He glanced at Valentina. "The nerves are working. They're damaged, but they're not dead. With consistent stimulation, we can help them remember how to communicate." Valentina's throat was tight. "How long would it take?" "Months. Probably. Maybe longer. There are no guarantees." Griffin's eyes were honest. "But I've seen her responses today. There's real potential here." Every day that week, Griffin and Lily returned. Every day, Sophia got stronger, not dramatically, but in small increments. She could hold the flashlight longer. She could feel pressure on her foot. On the 5th day, she wiggled 2 toes. Valentina rearranged her entire schedule around these sessions. She canceled board meetings, delegated responsibilities, ignored angry emails from Reed Hamilton. None of it mattered. On the 7th day, Sophia was in a balance exercise when it happened. "I felt that," Sophia said suddenly. Everyone froze. "Felt what, sweetheart?" Valentina asked. "My foot. I felt my foot touch the floor." Griffin knelt down immediately, pressing gently on Sophia's foot. "Can you feel this?" "Yes. It's like tingles." Tears streamed down Valentina's face. Griffin looked up at her, and in his eyes, she saw everything he'd lost: his career, his reputation, his wife, and everything he was willing to risk to give someone else hope. "This is just the beginning," he said quietly. The Blackwell Medical Boardroom occupied the entire top floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor. Valentina sat at the head of the mahogany table, surrounded by 12 board members. Reed Hamilton stood at the presentation screen, clicking through slides with barely concealed satisfaction. As Chief Research Officer, I felt it was my responsibility to vet anyone conducting experimental procedures on the CEO's daughter, especially given these procedures are taking place without proper institutional oversight. He clicked to the next slide. A newspaper article from 3 years ago. The headline, "Doctor's Experimental Treatment Kills Cancer Patient Wife Dies After Unproven Neural Therapy." Below it, a photo of Griffin being escorted from Massachusetts General Hospital. Valentina felt her blood turn to ice. Dr. Griffin Hayes was investigated for medical malpractice after conducting an unauthorized experiment on his terminally ill wife. The patient, Emily Hayes, died as a direct result of his treatment protocol. While he wasn't criminally charged, he lost his medical license and left the state. The board erupted in concerned murmurs. Margaret Chen leaned forward. "Valentina, please tell me this isn't the same man treating Sophia." "Dr. Hayes is a respected neurosurgeon who was," Reed interrupted, "was a neurosurgeon. Before he killed his own wife." "That's not what happened," Valentina said sharply. But doubt was already creeping in. Reed clicked again. Court documents appeared. Emily Hayes's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit. It was settled out of court. Dr. Hayes signed a non-disclosure agreement and left Massachusetts. These are not the actions of an innocent man. "Were you aware of this history?" Margaret asked. Valentina's silence was answer enough. "I move that we immediately terminate whatever arrangement Dr. Hayes has with Sophia's treatment and refer this matter to legal." The vote was unanimous. That evening, Valentina went to Griffin's hotel in Cambridge. She knocked harder than she needed to. Griffin opened the door, saw her face, and immediately understood. "You found out. You lied to me. You let me trust you with my daughter's life. And you didn't tell me you killed your own wife." "I didn't kill her." Griffin stepped back. Lily was asleep in the adjoining bedroom. Emily had stage 4 cancer. She had weeks to live. The treatment was her choice. The newspapers said. The newspapers needed a villain. Emily's family needed someone to blame. The hospital needed to protect itself. I was convenient. He walked to the window. "Your father knew the truth. He testified on my behalf. He provided documentation proving the research was sound, that Emily understood the risks, that her death resulted from her disease, not the treatment. But once the story got out, none of that mattered." "Then why did you settle?" "Because I was drowning. Because Emily was gone, and Lily was crying every night, and the hospital threatened years of litigation. Because Lawrence told me to take the settlement and start over somewhere I could breathe." Valentina wanted to believe him. But all she could see was that headline. Those photos. "I have to do what's best for Sophia. And right now, what's best is proven care. I've contacted the Zurich Spinal Institute. They have proven protocols, documented success, and they'll spend months on assessments while everything we've built deteriorates." Griffin's frustration showed. "You saw her progress. You saw her feel her foot again. I saw my daughter respond to play therapy. The Zurich Institute has safety, documentation, everything I don't have." Griffin's shoulders sagged. "I understand. You're protecting your daughter. That's what a good parent does." Valentina left without another word. The private medical jet would leave for Switzerland in 48 hours. Valentina had arranged everything: the transfer, the intake, temporary residence near the clinic. Sophia would have the best care money could buy. Proven care, safe care. Sophia said nothing when told about the plan. She just nodded and looked down at Dr. Waffles. The morning of departure, Griffin came to say goodbye. Valentina agreed to let him see Sophia one final time, though she stayed in the room. Griffin knelt beside Sophia's wheelchair. "I hear you're going on an adventure." Sophia's lower lip trembled. "I don't want to go. Zurich is beautiful. They have mountains and chocolate. I want to stay here. With you and Lily." She looked up with desperate eyes. "You were helping me. I could feel my foot. You'll keep getting better in Switzerland. They have excellent doctors. But not you." Griffin swallowed hard. He glanced at Valentina, who stared at the wall. Your mom is making the best choice she can. Promise me you'll keep trying. Keep believing you can get better. Okay, Sophia whispered. The door opened and Lily burst in. Wait. We can't leave without saying goodbye properly. She ran to Sophia and pressed Dr. Waffles into her hands. You have to take him. He knows all about medicine, and he'll help you even when we're not there. But he's yours, Sophia protested. Now he's yours. But you have to take good care of him. Lily wrapped Sophia in a fierce hug. And when you come back, we're going to play every day until you can run and jump and do cartwheels. Valentina felt something crack in her chest. Griffin put a hand on Lily's shoulder. Come on. We need to let them pack. As they reached the door, Lily turned back. Bye, Sophia. See you soon. Sophia didn't answer. She clutched Dr. Waffles, silent tears streaming down her face. That night, Valentina couldn't sleep. She lay in her hotel room near the airport, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince herself she was making the right choice. At 3 a.m, she checked on Sophia. Her daughter was awake, sitting up with Dr. Waffles in her lap. Can't sleep either? Valentina asked softly. Sophia shook her head. Mom, do you think I'll walk again? Valentina's throat closed. I hope so, baby. Dr. Griffin thinks I can. He said my nerves weren't dead, just sleeping. And we could wake them up. Sophia looked at the bear, but now we're leaving before they're all awake. Valentina sat on the bed. She thought about her father, Lawrence Blackwell, who'd spent his career chasing impossible things. Who'd been called reckless by his peers, right up until his methods became standard practice. Who'd told her on her wedding day that the biggest regret was being too afraid to try. Do you trust Dr. Griffin? Valentina asked quietly. Yes. No hesitation. Even though we're leaving? Yes. Because he sees me. Not just the wheelchair me. The real me. He sees the me that can walk. Valentina pulled her daughter close. The airport was crowded with early travelers. Valentina pushed Sophia's wheelchair through the terminal toward their gate. They'd checked in, gone through security, made it to the departure lounge. 30 minutes until boarding. Sophia hadn't spoken since they'd left the hotel. She sat in her chair, Dr. Waffles clutched tight, staring at nothing. I'm going to get breakfast, Valentina said. What do you want? I'm not hungry. Sophia, I don't want to go. Sophia's voice rose. I don't want to get on that plane. I want to stay here. I want Dr. Griffin to keep helping me. Sweetheart, we've been through this. No. You decided. You didn't ask me what I wanted. Tears streamed down Sophia's face. People were starting to stare. Valentina crouched down, eye level with her daughter. I'm trying to protect you. From what? From getting better? Before Valentina could respond, an airport employee approached with a small package. Mrs. Blackwell? This was just delivered. Rush courier. Valentina took the package, confused. It was addressed to Sophia Blackwell in careful handwriting. Inside was a drawing. Clearly Lily's work, full of bright colors and wild imagination. 2 girls standing on their own feet, holding hands. One with dark hair like Sophia, one with light hair like Lily. They were smiling, surrounded by flowers and stars. At the bottom, in Lily's uneven letters, we'll walk together. Below the drawing was a small red handprint. Lily's hand, a promise. Tucked in was a folded piece of paper. Griffin's handwriting. The note was short. Your father once told me, healing happens at the intersection of science and hope. You can't have one without the other. Sophia has both. The question is whether you'll let her use them. Whatever you decide, I believe in her. Always have. Always will. Valentina's hands shook as she read it again. She thought about her father in his laboratory, pursuing research everyone said was impossible. She thought about Griffin, who'd lost everything but still showed up to help a child he barely knew. She thought about Sophia's face when she'd felt her foot for the first time. And she thought about safety, about proven methods, about the comfort of documented approaches. Her father's voice echoed. Healing happens at the intersection of science and hope. Sophia was looking at her, red-eyed, clutching that drawing. Mom, please. Valentina looked at the departure screen. Their flight was boarding. She looked at her daughter. She looked at Lily's drawing, at those two girls standing together. She pulled out her phone and dialed Griffin's number. He answered on the second ring. Dr. Hayes, she said, her voice shaking. Don't leave Boston. We're not getting on that plane. The elevator ride to the 23rd floor felt longer than Valentina remembered. She hadn't been here to the executive research level since the memorial service 3 years ago. At the end of the hall was a door. Dr. Lawrence Blackwell, Director of Neural Innovation. Valentina's hand trembled as she pressed her palm to the biometric lock. The door swung open. The laboratory looked exactly as it had the day her father died. His coffee mug still sat on the desk. A framed photo of Valentina's mother smiled from the shelf. Technical journals lay open, pages marked with post-it notes. And everywhere were papers, notebooks, diagrams, equations. The life's work of a genius who'd run out of time. Griffin stood in the doorway with Lily. He'd come as soon as Valentina called from the airport. This is it, Valentina said quietly. Everything he was working on when he died. The company sealed it for eventual evaluation. But no one ever came. I think they were afraid they wouldn't understand it. She turned to Griffin. But you would. You were his student, his partner. You spoke his language. Griffin walked slowly into the room, scanning the walls, the papers, the equipment. He picked up a notebook, flipped through carefully. This is incredible. He was so much further along than I thought. Can you use it? Can you finish what he started? Griffin looked at her with awe and grief and determination. He left us the roadmap, every calculation, every formula, every trial result. All we have to do is follow where he was leading. Valentina took a deep breath. Then that's what we're going to do. I'm reinstating you as lead research physician of the Blackwell Neural Regeneration Project. You'll have full access to every resource this company has. Lab space, equipment, assistance, funding, whatever you need. The board will never approve this. The board answers to me. I hold controlling shares. Valentina's voice was steel. I'm going to make my father's work mean something. I'm going to make sure his legacy isn't left to gather dust. She picked up a photo Lawrence with a younger Valentina, both laughing. He always said breakthroughs don't come from playing it safe. They come from people brave enough to try the impossible. She set the photo down gently. I haven't been brave, but I'm going to start now. Griffin extended his hand. Thank you for trusting me. I won't let you down. You already haven't. Over the next week, the laboratory transformed. Griffin brought in equipment from Portland, integrating it with Lawrence's advanced systems. He hired a small research team willing to work on an unproven protocol. Reed Hamilton fought it. He went to the board, threatened legal action, tried to frame it as reckless endangerment. But Valentina had done her homework. She'd dug up records from Emily Hayes's case, the ones Lawrence had kept, showing the research had been ethical, the treatment consensual, the outcome tragic, but not criminal. She'd presented them to the board with a simple ultimatum. Support the research, or accept her resignation and face hostile takeover by outside investors. The board chose to support the research. Reed was reassigned far from the Neural Regeneration Project. Valentina became a fixture in the laboratory. She was there early, stayed late, learned to understand the language her father had spoken. Griffin taught her patiently, explaining neural pathway stimulation principles, showing her how to read brain scans and muscle response charts. She would never be the scientist her father was, but she could be the protector of his vision. Late one night, reviewing data from Sophia's latest session, Griffin looked up from his computer. Lawrence told me once that he believed the greatest scientific discoveries weren't made by geniuses working alone. They were made by ordinary people who refused to give up. Valentina smiled. He was describing himself. He always said he wasn't naturally brilliant, he just worked harder than everyone else. He was wrong, Griffin said quietly. He was brilliant. But he was also right about persistence. He pulled up a new screen. I think I've found it. The missing piece. Lawrence was so close, he just didn't have time to test it. Valentina leaned in. She didn't understand all of it, but she understood enough. Enough to see that her father's dream was about to become real. Sophia's recovery didn't happen overnight. It happened in increments so small that some days felt like nothing was changing. But Griffin and Lily kept coming, day after day, turning treatment into play, turning hope into action. Lily maintained a notebook where she recorded Sophia's progress in 6-year-old handwriting. Sophia wiggled 3 toes today. Sophia held her leg up for 5 whole seconds. Sophia made Dr. Waffles laugh. The 2 girls became inseparable. Lily transformed every exercise into an adventure astronauts training for zero gravity. Dancers preparing for performance, superhero sidekicks learning new powers. And slowly, steadily, Sophia's body remembered how to communicate with itself. 3 weeks after they'd nearly left for Switzerland, Sophia could feel pressure along most of her right leg. 5 weeks in, she could flex her left foot. 7 weeks in, she stood in a standing frame for 30 seconds before her legs gave out. Valentina watched from her position against the wall, hands pressed to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Valentina herself changed too. The rigid CEO who'd worn armor in the form of perfect suits began to soften. She started arriving in jeans and sweaters. She laughed more. She let Lily paint her nails during sessions. She learned to hope. Her relationship with Griffin shifted. At first, purely professional doctor and mother. But as weeks passed, as they spent long hours analyzing data and adjusting protocols, as they celebrated victories and weathered frustrating plateaus, something else grew. Trust, respect, but also something warmer. Something that lived in glances that lingered. In the way their hands would brush. In comfortable silence during late-night work sessions. Neither spoke about it. Both felt it. 10 weeks into treatment, Griffin designed a new test. He set up a walking frame in the therapy room. Okay, Sophia. Today's mission. 5 steps. Sophia looked terrified. What if I fall? Then I catch you. Griffin said simply. That's literally my job. Lily stood at the other end. And I'm the finish line. You're walking to me. Sophia looked at her mother. Valentina nodded, trying to keep calm even though her heart hammered. Griffin helped Sophia position her hands on the frame. Remember everything we've practiced. Your brain knows how to do this. You just have to trust it. Sophia took a breath, shifted her weight, lifted her right foot, moved it forward, set it down. The room held its breath. Left foot. Lift. Forward. Down. Right foot again. 3 steps. 4 steps. 5 steps. Sophia made it to the end, where Lily waited with Dr. Waffles and a homemade medal. The room erupted. The physical therapist started crying. Valentina ran forward and wrapped Sophia in the tightest hug. Griffin stood back, eyes bright. This is just the beginning. Valentina looked at him over Sophia's head, and the gratitude in her eyes was mixed with something deeper. Later, after Sophia and Lily had been taken for celebratory ice cream, Valentina and Griffin stood alone in the laboratory. Thank you, Valentina said quietly, for not giving up on us, for coming back even after You were protecting your daughter. I understand that. No. You need to hear this. I was wrong. I let fear make my decisions. I let other people's judgments matter more than what I could see with my own eyes. She took a step closer. You gave my daughter her life back, and I will spend the rest of my life making sure everyone knows what you did. Making sure your reputation is restored. Griffin reached out and gently took her hand. Valentina. I didn't do this for recognition. I did it because it was right, and because Lawrence would have wanted me to. My father would be so proud of you. He'd be proud of you too, for being brave enough to try. For a long moment, they stood there, hands clasped, something unspoken but powerful passing between them. Then Valentina pulled back, clearing her throat. Professional again. We should start planning the next phase. If this protocol works for Sophia, it could work for thousands of other patients. Griffin smiled. Then let's change the world. 3 months after Sophia took her first steps, Valentina hosted a small dinner at her home. It was the first time she'd entertained since before the accident, the first time the house had felt like a home rather than a museum of grief. She'd invited Griffin and Lily, Dr. Sarah Chen, who'd supervised Sophia's recovery, and Margaret from the board, who'd become an unexpected ally. Sophia walked down the stairs to greet them. She still used a cane, still tired easily. But she walked on her own feet. Lily squealed and ran to hug her, and the two girls disappeared into the playroom. Over dinner, Valentina made an announcement. I wanted you all to be the first to know. The board has approved the creation of the Lawrence Blackwell Foundation for Neural Innovation. It will be a non-profit research organization dedicated to making spinal regeneration therapy accessible to patients regardless of their ability to pay. She turned to Griffin. And Dr. Hayes has agreed to serve as the Foundation's chief medical officer. Griffin looked genuinely surprised. Valentina, we discussed research director. I need you to lead this. Not just the science, but the vision. The way you turned Sophia's treatment into play, into hope, into life, that's not just medicine. That's transformation, and that needs to be at the center of everything we do. Margaret raised her glass. Hear, hear. And the board has also voted to formally clear Dr. Hayes' record. We've submitted documentation to the medical board requesting full reinstatement of his license. With Dr. Blackwell's testimony and the evidence he left behind, there's no question Dr. Hayes' previous work was ethically sound. Griffin's hand shook slightly as he set down his fork. I don't know what to say. Say you'll do it, Valentina said. Say you'll help us make this real for everyone who needs it. Griffin looked around the table at the faces watching him, colleagues, friends, believers. Yes. I'll do it. The dinner lasted hours, filled with laughter and planning and hope. When the others had left, Griffin lingered to help clean up. They worked in comfortable silence, loading the dishwasher, wrapping leftovers. You didn't have to do all this, Griffin said finally. The foundation, the license reinstatement, helping Sophia was enough. It wasn't about obligation, Valentina said. She turned to face him. It was about truth. About making sure the world knows who you really are. And who am I? Griffin asked softly. Someone who shows up. Someone who fights for what's right, even when it costs him everything. Someone my father trusted. And who proved why he was right. She paused. Someone I trust. Griffin took a step closer. Valentina, don't. She held up a hand, but she was smiling. Don't say whatever you're about to say. Not yet. We've both been through too much. We need time to just exist without crisis. I can do that, Griffin said, as long as you know I'm going to keep showing up. For Sophia. For the foundation. For you. I know. From the playroom, they heard Sophia laugh, a full, delighted sound neither had heard in nearly a year. She sounds happy, Griffin said. She is happy. We both are. Valentina reached out and squeezed his hand briefly. Thank you for that. Griffin squeezed back. Thank you for letting me. 1 year after that rainy afternoon at Boston Memorial Hospital, the Lawrence Blackwell Foundation hosted its inaugural gala. The event took place in the grand ballroom of the Boston Convention Center, with more than 500 guests, doctors, researchers, donors, patients, and families. The walls were lined with displays showing the foundation's work. Photos of patients in recovery, explanatory panels about neural regeneration, interactive demonstrations. At the center was a portrait of Dr. Lawrence Blackwell, commissioned for the occasion. Valentina stood at the edge of the room, feeling overwhelmed in the best possible way. She wore a midnight blue gown, her hair swept up, her mother's pearls at her throat. Griffin appeared at her elbow, handsome in a tuxedo. Ready for this? He asked. Not even a little bit, Valentina admitted. But we're doing it anyway. They've been planning this night for months, the official launch, the announcement of research grants, the unveiling of their patient assistance program. But the real highlight was about to begin. The lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the stage. Valentina and Griffin walked up together, and the room erupted in applause. But they weren't being celebrated tonight. "Thank you all for coming," Valentina said into the microphone, her voice steady. "A year ago, I was a mother watching my daughter face an impossible diagnosis. I was a CEO trying to honor a legacy I didn't understand. I was lost." She paused, finding Sophia in the front row, and then someone showed up and said 4 words that changed everything. "Let me help her." Griffin took the microphone. "Medicine isn't just about science. It's about connection. It's about believing in possibility, even when logic says to give up. It's about people brave enough to try." He smiled. "But you don't have to take my word for it. Everyone, please welcome Sophia Blackwell." The spotlight moved to the side of the stage, and Sophia walked out. Not with a cane, not with a walker. On her own 2 feet, steady and strong, wearing a green dress and the biggest smile. The room went silent. Then everyone stood. The applause was deafening. Sophia walked to center stage and took the microphone with complete confidence. "Hi, everyone. I'm Sophia. A year ago, doctors told my mom I would never walk again. They were wrong." Laughter rippled through the crowd. "I get to walk because 2 people refused to give up on me. Dr. Griffin, who saw me as more than just a girl in a wheelchair, and Dr. Lily." She gestured to the front row, where Lily sat in a tiny formal dress, beaming, who reminded me that healing can be fun. Sophia's voice grew more serious, but mostly, "I get to walk because my grandpa believed that impossible just means nobody's figured it out yet. The Lawrence Blackwell Foundation is going to help other kids like me. Kids who are told they'll never get better. Kids who need someone to show up and say, 'Let me help you.'" She held out her hands. "Please welcome my heroes, Dr. Griffin Hayes and Dr. Lily Hayes." Griffin lifted Lily onto the stage, and Sophia wrapped them both in a hug. The applause grew even louder. Valentina watched from the side, tears streaming, her heart so full it hurt. Later, after the formal program ended, Valentina found herself on the balcony, overlooking Boston Harbor. The night air was cool, city lights reflecting off dark water. Griffin joined her with champagne. "You did it," he said. "We did it." Valentina clinked her glass against his. Together, they stood in comfortable silence, watching boats drift across the harbor. "I keep thinking about that day at the hospital," Valentina said. "When you and Lily showed up, I almost turned you away. But you didn't, because Sophia saw something in Lily. And I saw something in you." She turned to face him. "I saw someone who understood what my father spent his life believing, that science isn't about being safe. It's about being brave." Griffin set down his glass and took both her hands. "Valentina Blackwell, you are the bravest person I know." "No," she said, smiling through tears. "I'm just a woman who learned to trust the right people." He pulled her closer. "Is this too soon?" "Probably," Valentina admitted. "But I don't care anymore." He kissed her then, soft and careful and full of promise, while Boston sparkled around them and their daughters plotted their next adventure inside. When they pulled apart, Griffin rested his forehead against hers. "Your father would be proud of you," he whispered. "He's proud of both of us," Valentina said. "I can feel it." Inside, someone called for another speech. Valentina and Griffin walked back in hand, ready to face whatever came next. Because healing didn't just come from medicine. It came from trust. It came from people who showed up, even when the world said it was hopeless. It came from a father who'd left behind a legacy of impossible dreams, and a daughter who'd learned to believe in them. It came from a man who'd lost everything but still found the courage to say, "Let me help her." And it came from a little girl who wiggled her toes one day and changed the world. Sophia took the stage one more time for the final speech. "My grandpa used to say that healing happens at the intersection of science and hope. I think he was right, but I also think he forgot something. She looked out at the crowd with the wisdom of someone who'd fought her way back from impossible. Healing also happens when people love you enough to show up. When they stay, even when it's hard. When they believe in you, even when you can't believe in yourself. She held up Dr. Waffles, worn and beloved. Missing one button eye, but still treasured. This is Dr. Waffles. He's been with me through every treatment, every exercise, every scary moment. Lily gave him to me when I needed hope. And now the Lawrence Blackwell Foundation is going to give hope to everyone who needs it. The room erupted one final time. Valentina wrapped an arm around Griffin's waist, and he pulled her close. Lily climbed onto Griffin's other side, and Sophia joined them, completing their circle. 4 people who'd found each other in the rain. 4 people who'd learned that family wasn't just about blood, it was about showing up. It was about saying, "Let me help," and meaning it. It was about refusing to give up, even when the whole world said there was no hope left.